our last topic we're talking is how we're going to stop this stupid pipeline. So we're in this spot where salmon spawn in this reach of the Clackamas River, steelhead habitat. One of the things that we have are a bunch of legal tools that we can use to stop the project. On the LNG terminals themselves, the state of Oregon has the ability to stop the projects under the Clean Water Act. So in the next year, the state of Oregon is going to be deciding whether the Bradwood LNG terminal, which is basically the head of this pipeline, complies with the Clean Water Act. So when that decision comes up, when that's officially up for comment, we need people to turn out for those hearings. We had a hearing a couple months ago in Astoria. A couple people from this group were there, and it was an incredible turnout. It was like 300 people showed up, most of whom were on our side. And it was just, at one point, everybody in the room stood up to oppose the project, and it was like a full room. And this is in a cash-strapped, job-hungry county. So we have a lot of support. Upcoming, there's a couple big things that are happening in like the next couple weeks. The week after next, on Earth Day, on April 22nd, there's going to be a rally in Portland at noon. And it's going to be outside a hearing that FERC is holding about the Oregon LNG project. Oregon LNG would also use this Palomar pipeline. If they got built and approved, they would basically build a pipeline to Malala and then use this part to get their gas to California. So the hearing is about how Oregon LNG has been basically intimidating landowners, trespassing on people's property, lying, general skullduggery and bad behavior. But we're trying to use the hearing as basically a jumping off point to message it to the governor's office. Our current governor and our next governor, whoever that is, have the ability to stop that project right now. And so it's important to say, to make it clear that we know that both those LNG terminals in the Columbia River are going to use this Palomar pipeline. So I really encourage people to come. It's at 12 noon. The hearing that morning starts at 9 a.m. So if you want to come to the hearing, it's at City Hall in Portland. There'll be a bunch of people outside. It'll be easy to find. At 9 a.m. you can come and just be support, or you can come and, if you've ever had, if you want to send a message to this judge and say, hey, I'm a BARC volunteer, I'm a member of BARC, and Oregon LNG hasn't admitted yet that they're going to use that Palomar pipeline, even though we know they're going to. So, they're being dishonest right up front.
There is public comment, you're saying?
Yeah, it's actually an official hearing where you will be sworn in and your testimony will be given orally. So you could just say, hey, I'm from Portland, this project affects me, and I'm aware that Oregon LNG is going to use the Palomar pipeline, and, they're not telling that to the public, and neither is Palomar.
When is the hearing?
The hearing is at 9 a.m.
Tomorrow?
No. This is on Earth Day, on April 22nd. Yeah, and so some of the people who will be there are some of the people who are affected by the pipelines that cross their own farms and forests. And so the people who've had, letters from Oregon LNG telling them, oh, if you sign with us now, then we won't condemn you later. Or if you come talk to us, then we'll route that pipeline away from your house. Things like that. Oh, we can't tell where your house or your well is until you talk to us. So they've tried to use basically intimidation tactics to get people to work with them. It hasn't worked. In fact, it's just made people extremely angry, and that's why FERC finally said, okay, we're going to have these hearings. For us, the big message is to the state of Oregon. FERC can hold its hearings and do this kind of little show, and that's fine. The really important thing is that the state of Oregon can stop Bradwood by denying its clean water permit, and it can stop Oregon LNG by just pulling its lease. The state of Oregon owns the land where the terminal is located. It was signed under fraudulent terms 5 years ago, and right now if the state of Oregon makes them reapply or just denies the lease, that project goes away. So that lops off a whole LNG terminal, 120 miles of pipeline, and it whittles us down to just Bradwood and just Palomar, which would be really useful in that, it's hard to keep track of this much pipeline. Those are the big things that, this is really a political decision. Anytime the governors are out doing like town halls or the governor candidates from either side of the aisle, it's important for them to have people in front of them saying, hey, I'm against LNG, what's your position? And that's pretty critical. Just to make it, those are big forums, a lot of people go to those things. So it's a chance to get your message out. Yeah, there's going to be a rally in Portland at noon on Earth Day, right in front of City Hall. So it's a chance to kind of be solidarity between folks are concerned about Mount Hood and all the people along the private lands. We think that actually it's really clearly in violation of the Clean Water Act, because the fish that spawn out in these areas are protected under the Clean Water Act. They're what are called beneficial uses, or protected, they're basically protected values of the river. And so we get to basically point out the very obvious fact that, this isn't going to work, and it clearly violates this law. So that's why we try to use these laws. I mean, but ultimately it's like, if we're loud enough, if there's enough of us, it's going to be too high a political price for the political people at the top to push these agencies to do the wrong thing. We need them to do the right thing. A while ago, Governor Kolongoski was speaking on at a forum, kind of a can't remember the name of the forum, but it was at University of Portland, and he got up and said, well, he was asked a question about LNG by a student, and in front of a couple thousand people said, well, I see LNG as potentially a bridge fuel. The crowd started booing. And within 2 weeks, Kolongoski had made the decision to challenge FERC on, the Bradwood project, was getting, all of a sudden his position shifted and he became much more critical, at least, of the process that the feds were using to push the projects through. So public pressure actually does make an impact. And all the governor's candidates coming up should be hearing from folks about this.
Yeah, so on May 27th, Northwest Natural is holding their annual meeting for shareholders of their stock. And we're gonna do a lot of actions around that meeting, including demonstrating on the street. It's ripe with possibilities, and we haven't decided what everything is going to happen yet. So if you want to get on board and bring your creativity and your energy to that process, it would be a great asset, and I think it's going to be a big publicity push that day.
Yeah, if you're interested in getting more in touch about that, I mean, there's information on BARC's website about all this stuff. There's information on heynwnatural.org. It's a really good website. Martin's on there. You can just get in touch with Martin or me, and we can tell you how to get plugged in. There's actually weekly or bi-weekly meetings running up to that event to start organizing for it, and we really, really want to turn out a ton of people on May 27th. We want that to be like, do not mess with us. We have the people, we're willing to show up, we're willing to get the attention of all the media in the Portland market, and point out what Northwest Natural is doing. Northwest Natural is incredibly image conscious. I mean, they run ads, with pictures of rivers like this saying, oh, we gave $100,000 to this restoration project over here or over there. If we publicize the fact that this is dirty energy, it's Northwest Nasty, not Northwest Natural, that really helps to persuade and to at least make it cost them something in terms of their pretty image. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the next couple weeks.
How was our representatives and senators weighed in on this?
Senator Wyden and Merkley have introduced a bill to restate some of the local state authority. They were also very influential in getting those hearings, those fact-finding hearings on Oregon LNG. They've been generally critical. I know that Senator Wyden's been critical of this part through the Mount Hood Forest. I mean, both Wyden and Merkley were instrumental in getting Fish Creek and the Roaring River designated, the Roaring River part of the wilderness and Fish Creek is a wild and scenic river. They're not looking forward to the idea of all that work. I mean, that took them, how long did that take Senator Wyden? I mean, like a decade?
Yeah, a decade.
A decade at least of work trying to push that proposal forward. It finally gets passed, and it's like right at that time, they propose this huge energy project right through the middle of it. And like I said, Palomar is the tip of the iceberg. They put a pipeline through there, and that's a right-of-way that, they're going to start trying to widen, We just can't it's like getting the camel's nose under the tent.
Let me build on that point for a minute. So we've talked today a lot about how this ecosystem it's a fragile web of organisms that depend on each other, and if you interrupt that, the whole thing collapses, and you have a downward spiral of just like biological impoverishment. Well, this sort of speculative way of doing business and trading commodities and kind of making financial maneuvers, that's a fragile system too. And if we can interrupt one little piece of it, the whole thing collapses. I mean, these companies have spent millions and millions of dollars already to try to plan this project, and if we block it, that's money down the drain, and it's going to send a message to future speculators and future companies that their money is not well spent trying to cram something through that's illegal, because we're going to step up and make sure it doesn't happen. And so we can interrupt this ecosystem of speculation and create a sort of an upward spiral of sustainability and resiliency.
These little towns like Forest Grove and Yamhill and Astoria, I mean, it's like a minor revolution that's going on. I mean, people are really fired up, and people who never talk to each other, like these farmers and foresters, and then all the people, you know, who are kind of like back to the land hippies, all sitting around a table, like staring at each other like, all right, I guess we're on the same side of this one, right? We'll forget that argument we had a decade ago, where, you know, we were pointing guns at each other or whatever. So it's pretty entertaining, and the part that Bark has been so instrumental in doing is connecting that with this like common resource. So getting plugged in here, the more we raise this profile, the more we pull in Portland, because those rural communities are ready. You know, they're ready to go to bat, and the more help we can give them for the Portland part, it would be one of the biggest environmental victories in the history of Oregon if we were to shut down all these LNG proposals. You know, 5 years ago, these guys said, "Oh, we'll have 2 of them. We're all coming through. This is a done deal." That's what they kept telling me. It's a done deal. No one's opposing us. You know, this is clean, green energy. You know, 5 years later, not a shovel full of dirt turned.